Good. In the throes of writing projects, and I know you've been doing the same thing. And as we get into this time of year, what are some things from a writing perspective that you're reminded of that you'd like to speak to?
Well, I think I don't know about you, Randy, but I'm pretty lucky in that the people that I work with, I work with some pretty nice design teams, so I get a lot of information. And what I'm trying to do is get information, especially from the visual folks, more and more, to make sure we're on the same page. When I'll send a first draft of something, I love it when the visual people come back and say, we could really use more time here, or can you think about doing something here that's going to help us out? And I'd rather have that now than when we start to get it on the field. So I think the main thing I'm thinking about, whether you're a director getting ready to receive an arrangement or a composition, or whether you're part of a design team, or whether you're the actual arranger or composer, it really comes back to communication again, and making sure that all bases are covered well before we even think about handing out anything to the kids. So that we know it's going to work musically from the opener, for example. Most people have their openers. Is it really going to work the way you wanted it to? Did the arranger and composer do what you asked them to do? Or maybe you got lucky and they did something even better and you were like, wow. Or they may have done something too that you're like, I'm not sure. Don't wait too long. I mean, do you agree?
Absolutely. And I've got kind of a thing called "Hate It for a Day," which,
Hmm.
you know, if you're the band director and you don't like something about something that the arranger's done, just allow yourself to do multiple listenings, get away from it for a day, go back to it, and then be able to articulate what your concerns are. Sometimes, as a writer, we're not always great at getting into the director's head as to what they wanted, but a lot of times that just comes from a lack of communication. The communication is really really key, as you mentioned. Just that um, communicating back and forth with the visual folks. Sometimes um, as writers we forget, as musicians we forget that visual drill writers, they need time to develop moments, and sometimes we box them in and don't give them that time if we're not careful about um, whichever voice we're exposing at a given point in time, giving time to get there, giving time to get out of it. um, those are important takeaways. And the other thing too is if it's a smaller group, are there varieties? Are there
Hmm.
soloists, are there duets, trios, or is it always the entire band playing all the time? Those are some red flags that we have to look for as we're working together as a staff. And this idea of the arranger writes the music, then the percussion guy gets it, he writes his arrangements, then the color guard people get there. That's not necessarily a great way to work, right? That's more of a vertical articulation. That doesn't end in a great result usually, does it, Richard?
It doesn't. And the problem, if we're just calling it like it is, Randy, the problem is that most of the people that are writing, and you and I, we wouldn't say this in a complaining manner, but it's just the truth. We're busy. Everybody's busy. The directors are busy. All the designers, whether they're musical or visual designers, are busy. And if you have good people, they're really busy. All right. So again, you have to be really concise about your communication and making sure that everyone is on the same page. And you might have to push back and forth in your design team to make sure you have the information you want before you start writing. And as a director, it's kind of your responsibility to make sure that all of your design team is on the same page before people start to write. You also made a great point about the small band thing too. Remember, one of the big concerns that directors of small bands, and my very first band, didn't have very many kids in it, and I was concerned about it, is the volume thing. How you going to get your volume up there? Well, one of the ways that you do it is something you just mentioned: have a soloist play. Then the full band comes in, and guess what? It sounds big. All right, so you just have to use that same kind of thought process as you would with a larger band. And also remember, if you're writing for a competing band, that you also have to think in the mind of a judge a little bit. Also, look at the score sheets, make sure you know what the judges are looking for and listening for, because all those things can really help you put together a great program if you kind of go through the list and make sure all those boxes are checked.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're going to invest in electronics with a smaller group, use that to your advantage. Treat it as a third orchestrative or fourth orchestrative device, and don't combine it with winds. Let the winds have a break. Let the electronics and the orchestration of synthesizers and percussion and front ensemble have their moment.
Great
And
point.
if you're smart about it, it can really be beneficial to a group that needs that little bit of break before they have to finish out the show.
Yep, it's a great point, and I'm finding myself doing that more and more, giving opportunities to front ensembles, to electronic groups, and even to battery, depending on what's going on. But I think that the front ensemble and the electronics are used a lot, but I'm not sure they're always used in the best interest of the overall group. So I think it's really important again to get that stuff set up well before, so that the design team's listening to it all. I was on a call the other day, Randy, I know you do this too, with an entire design team. They listened to this 3-minute arrangement that I did, and we talked through it. Okay, and I was lucky. We just wanted to make a couple of changes, but they were important changes. So just make sure that you're really on the same page as a design team. And directors, just a reminder that that's kind of our responsibility, is to make sure that our design team is on top of things.
Absolutely. Well, great advice, great things to think about as folks are either starting the creative process, finishing the creative process, or in the middle of it. Reviewing and constantly thinking about choices are really important before it goes on the field, because it's not a mistake till it goes on the field.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So looking forward to our sessions next week on Coffee Talk. And thanks so much for your time today, Richard.
Thank you, Randy. Have a great week, everybody. Best of luck.
Take care.